Steve Bannon indicted. He's also going to be appearing in front of a judge and setting release conditions, but he is speaking about what happened in a new press release. We're going to take a look at that. But first, let's take a look at the backstory over from the Washington Post. Bannon will face a state indictment in New York, is going to surrender on Thursday. Former Trump strategist is already convicted. We've covered this case at length. Remember when we talked Steve Bannon, we had entire trial coverage. It was a very short trial, just less than 1 week, really. He was convicted on 2 counts. 1 count, contempt of Congress for not showing up and giving testimony. 1 count, contempt of Congress for not providing documents when he was subpoenaed from the January 6th Select Committee. Okay, so he's already been convicted in that case. He has not been sentenced yet. We're waiting for the sentencing to take place. And that is a federal court case, right? That is a federal system matter. He was charged out of the D.C. Circuit Court because the January 6th Select Committee is comprised in D.C., so they have jurisdiction. But there are other jurisdictions around this country, and some of those jurisdictions are state jurisdictions. And we know that when Donald Trump left office, he pardoned Steve Bannon, and Bannon was already under investigation in many different facets by many different individuals, and Trump gave him a pardon. The problem is that pardon only applies to federal level cases for certain issues. And here, this is a separate issue that takes place at a state level, taking place particularly out of New York. Steve Bannon, writes the Post, they got the exclusive on this, is expected to surrender to state prosecutors on Thursday to face a new criminal indictment, people familiar with the matter said. This comes weeks after he was convicted of contempt of Congress, 2 years after he received the pardon from Trump. The precise details of the case could not be confirmed on Tuesday, but people familiar with the situation speaking on condition of anonymity again to discuss a sealed indictment suggest the prosecution will likely mirror aspects of the federal case in which Bannon was pardoned. Okay, so the DOJ leaks at the federal level. You've also got leaks at the state level from the prosecutor's office. In that indictment that took place at the federal level, that basically the state is just going to pick up and charge under state law, they say prosecutors allege that Bannon and several others defrauded contributors to a private $25 million fundraising effort called Build the Wall, taking funds that donors were told would support construction of a barrier along the U.S.-Mexico border. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which handles state-level prosecutions, has been evaluating Bannon's alleged involvement of the scheme for quite some time. Bannon, a former strategist for Trump, they're saying that authorities of somebody else, he pled not guilty to the charges. They say authorities pulled him off a yacht and brought him to court. He was accused of pocketing $1 million in the scheme. Months later, in the last hours of the presidency, Trump included Bannon on the pardons. 2 other people involved. One is named Brian. He's a disabled veteran, pled guilty. The other, Timothy Shea, ended in a mistrial in June when the jury could not reach a unanimous verdict. That's why you don't plead guilty. 2 other men, one pled guilty. The other had a mistrial. So I don't know what the status is, but man, that will be interesting to see if they're charged, if they retry that one. The new state indictment, the one that Bannon is going to be facing, comes less than 2 months after Bannon was convicted in Congress of contempt of Congress. The state case will be handled by, we've talked a lot about him, Alvin Bragg. Spokesman from his office declined to comment. But Bannon is expected to turn himself in on Thursday. And this is not unusual. We talked about this morning on our morning walk and talks for members and for locals. But it is a common thing. This happens regularly. In fact, police and prosecutors will be investigating somebody. The defense team for that person will know that that person's probably being investigated because of conversations back and forth. Prosecutors will reach out. Hey, here's what's going on. You're going to be indicted. What do you want to do about this? We can come pick you up, or you can come and show up and we can just sort of do this amicably. They gave Bannon the benefit of the doubt there, right? And that's actually a good thing. We sort of like to see that happen. The opposite, I don't like to see Bannon charged here. I think this is entirely political. But my point is, generally speaking, regular criminal procedure, you give people the benefit of the doubt and you try to resolve these things amicably. In most of these cases, that has not happened. Peter Navarro is an example. Ronnie Jackson. I can't remember the guy's name who got his cell phone seized. FBI agents showed up at the airport tarmac. Trump FBI raid. Roger Stone raid. Right? The raid is not the default. What we see here is the default. It's supposed to go this way, where they say, Bannon, this is what we're doing. Why don't you just come and drop yourself off and we can walk through this together? When reached for a comment, Bannon gave one. The state effort to investigate Bannon began under Cyrus Vance, who got thrown out of office or left. In addition to Bannon's investigation, Bragg also inherited Letitia James and some of her other cases, and so on. So that is just yet another criminal prosecution for Steve Bannon. Bannon issued a statement responding to all of this. He said, just days after being swatted 3 different times by deranged thugs from New York City, inspired by the Biden administration to assassinate me by the police, the Soros-backed DA has now decided to pursue phony charges against me 60 days before the midterm election because War Room is a major source of the MAGA grassroots movement. Bannon says the SDNY, the Southern District of New York, they did the same exact thing in August 2020 to try to take me out of the election. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. Bannon says this is nothing more than a partisan political weaponization of the criminal justice system. Bannon says, I am proud to be a leading voice on protecting our borders and building a wall to keep our country safe from drugs and violent criminals. The War Room show will be more vital, more intense, more urgent, and bigger this time. They are coming after us all, not only President Trump and myself. I am never going to stop fighting. In fact, I have not yet begun to fight. They will have to kill me first. Signed by Steve Bannon. And of course, he'll show up to court tomorrow, show up downtown, wherever he's indicted in Southern District of New York, see a judge, get booked, hopefully have some release conditions already set. Sounds like he's been through this before already. Bannon was on with Charlie Kirk on the War Room, invited him on, and Kirk offered Bannon some nice words of support, saying, I can't believe what they're doing to you. Bannon gives a nod, gives a little smirk, and he'll be in court tomorrow.
Dollars of these deadbeat spending back on the working class people's shoulders. Can he do that?
No, he can't. And Steve, before we go any further, I meant to say this in the first part, and I don't want to, go too deep into this, but we stand with you, Steve. It's ridiculous what the state of New York is doing to you. It's awful and it's grotesque. No, seriously, the targeting, and we're going to talk about it in our program next hour. So I just want to make sure I said that. No, Joe Biden does Joe Biden does not have the power.
Thank you, brother, says Steve Bannon. And of course, it's always stressful when you're dealing with government prosecutors, when you're dealing with lunatic judges. This is New York, and, who knows what they're going to do to him. So stressful day for Steve, and certainly could use your thoughts and prayers if those are things that you are willing to send his way, because it's another political prosecution in America taking place because they don't like the politics, not because Steve Bannon did anything ultra criminal or anything ultra MAGA. Other than being ultra MAGA, that's his crime. So we'll continue to cover that, Steve Bannon and other political prosecutions all across this country. Thank you for subscribing and joining us as we do.